They laughed at the legend of the ghost ship until it wiped out their fleet. Asterisk. The sky outside the station was empty. Silent and cold, the kind of cold that reached into your bones even through reinforced metal. Commander Elise Grant leaned over the edge of her console, staring at the strange signal looping through the main screen. Her fingers hovered just above the keyboard. She didn't dare touch anything yet. The message had started an hour ago. 3 repeating tones. Low, sharp, then low again. Then a short burst of code. But what made her chest tighten was the ID tag buried in the stream. It was a military tag. Human, Earth origin. Last recorded use 214 years ago. Elise stood frozen. She had studied that tag once in a file long buried by Earth's command. It was the last broadcast ever linked to the vanguard of battleship, so advanced, so powerful, and so strange it had been erased from history after it vanished. People called it a myth, a rumor born from war panic. But Elise had always believed. She grabbed her communicator. Grant to Command Priority 1 transmission. I've received an old signal. Believe it's from the vanguard. There was a pause long enough for her heart to beat 3 full times. Grant, do not proceed further, came the tired voice of General Arden. That ship is classified myth. Return to standard observation. Elise stared at the signal still blinking on the screen. Then the screen flickered, once, twice, and changed. A new message appeared in faded green text. You are late. Coordinates follow. Her mouth went dry. She'd heard stories long ago. Whispers in officer academies. The Vanguard was not destroyed. It had simply gone silent, disappeared. Some said it had grown too powerful. Others said it had vanished to hide something too dangerous to let anyone find. Now it was calling her. 3 hours later, Elise stood in the hangar bay of a patrol ship, the ISV Peregrine. She'd called in the only 2 people she trusted, Cale Rowe, an ex-fighter pilot with a temper, and Dr. Voratan, quiet AI specialist who rarely spoke unless it was important. This is illegal, Cale muttered, checking the power readings as they prepared for launch. Chasing ghost signals into restricted space without clearance. Sounds like a great way to disappear. No one will miss us if we do, Elise said, half joking. But if I'm right, this could save Earth. Cale rolled his eyes, awake something that shouldn't be woken. They launched into the black, the stars stretching around them as the Peregrine jumped into faster-than-light travel. Elise didn't speak during the jump. She stared at the navigation display, watching as they neared the Durnex Rift. The rift was a strange place. Ships didn't go there. Gravity was unstable, sensors failed, and those who entered rarely returned. It was the perfect hiding place. As they dropped from FTL, the lights on the bridge flickered. Alarms began to chirp. Grav sensors are spiking, Vora said, her calm voice steady, time dilation pockets forming. I've never seen readings like this. Outside the window, space looked wrong. Stars shifted, like they were moving underwater. Shapes flickered in and out of view. At one point, Cale swore he saw a reflection of their ship moving before they did. Something's here, Elise said, and then it hit them hard. A Peregrine. Slammed into something massive and invisible. Systems blinked. Atch! Engines groaned. The ship tilted, warning lights flashing red across the panels. We didn't hit an asteroid, Cale growled. There's no debris, just mass, Vora checked. Her readings, it's not just mass, it's tech. Human tech. Old design, but way ahead of us. They turned the external lights on, and there it was. At first, they saw nothing but void. But then, the shadows moved. A shape, long and heavy, emerged from the dark. Black hole, no lights, covered in glowing lines that pulsed faintly with a blue hue. It was like the ship itself was breathing. The Vanguard, Elise whispered. Her voice trembled. It was bigger than any human ship she'd ever seen, twice as long as Earth's largest dreadnought, and completely silent. The ship's lights activated. A soft glow rolled over the hull like waking eyes, and a voice crackled through the Peregrine's cums, old and deep, like it had aged with time. Identify, Kale's hand hovered over the weapons console. Do we answer? We have to, Elise said. She hit transmit. This is Commander Elise Grant of the ISV Peregrine. Earth is in danger. We're looking for hope. There was silence. Then the voice replied, then enter. But no, this hope has a price. The Vanguard's hull began to open, revealing a corridor lined with lights. Their ship was being pulled gently inside by a force they couldn't see or resist. Kale looked at Elise. You sure we're not walking into our own grave? Elise smiled slightly. If we are, at least we'll know the truth. As the doors closed behind them, the Peregrine disappeared into the heart of a legend, and outside, far across the stars, the enemy had already begun their approach. The Peregrine settled inside the Vanguard with a soft thud. For a ship centuries old, the landing bay looked untouched by time. Smooth black metal curved around them, and the airlock sealed behind with a whisper. No dust, no decay, just silencing, a faint humming like the ship was breathing. Kale checked the scanners. Atmosphere's breathable, gravity normal. That shouldn't be possible. Vora's eyes stayed on her console. Systems are still active. Power levels are stable. This ship, it never shut down. Elise unbuckled her harness and stood up. Her pulse raced. They were standing inside a piece of history, but it didn't feel old. It felt alive. The three stepped out of the Peregrine, boots echoing on the metal floor. The lights above them flickered on, one by one, following their path like footsteps ahead. The patterns along the walls pulsed softly with blue and white light. Kale ran a hand over the surface. This ship doesn't just power itself, he said. It responds to us. No, Vora said quietly. It's watching us. Elise didn't speak. She was focused on the far end of the hangar, where a wide door had opened by itself. Beyond it lay a dark corridor, smooth and endless, lit only by those strange lines glowing like veins. The air smelled faintly of ozone, like after a lightning storm. Let's move, Elise said. They walked into the corridor, the door closing silently behind them. It wasn't like walking through any normal ship. The walls weren't joined by panels or bolts. It was all one surface, seamless, the floor beneath their feet adjusted to. Each step, just enough to feel it. After a few minutes, another voice echoed through the corridor. It was calm, layered with age and power. You seek the weapon. You seek the crucible. They stopped. Elise looked around. We're here because Earth is in danger. We need your help. Help must be earned, not a mind, not a machine. This ship remembers everything, including betrayal. Kale's hand moved closer to his sidearm. Then, the walls around them changed. In an instant, the corridor melted away, replaced by a battlefield. They stood in a different place now, burned skies overhead, dead ships drifting. The sound of gunfire and screams filled the air, a war long past. What is this? Elise asked. Vora stepped forward. Scanning. This is a simulation. Memory. The Vanguard is showing us its past. Above them, a younger Earth fleet fired on an alien armada, but then, shockingly, turned on Vanguard. Laser blasts struck the dreadnought's hull from human ships. No. One voice shouted through the battle feed, "It's too dangerous. Destroy it before it turns on us." The memory faded. They were back in the corridor. I feared what they built, the voice said. They tried to destroy me, but I refused to die. Elise stepped forward. We're not them. We won't make the same mistake. The ship was quiet. Then a low tone filled the hallway, and a panel slid open beside them. Inside was a dark chamber filled with holographic stars and a floating corbright pulsing, shifting shape constantly. The crucible, Vora gasped. It's real. The chrono crucible. The weapon that can bend time. Elise stared at it. Can it stop the invasion? Yes, the voice replied. But the crucible must be linked to a living mind, one who can make the choices it requires, one who can bear its weight. Kale looked at Elise, then at the crucible. Linked. What does that mean? Time is not a tool. It is a storm. Only one who stands in the storm can control it. They must live seconds ahead. Feel every path. Relive failures to find success. No rest, no peace. Vora turned to Kale. It means the crucible needs an echo. Someone to exist just ahead of now. Kale laughed quietly. Sounds like hell. Elise looked at him. No one's asking you. I'm volunteering, he said. Been running from who I am for too long? Maybe it's time I do something that matters. She stepped forward. Kale, but he was already walking toward the core. I can do this, he said softly. I can see what others can't. Always could. Maybe that's why I survived so many battles others didn't. He placed his hand on the crucible. Light flared. The chamber went blinding white. When it faded, Kale was still there but different. His eyes glowed faintly. His body shimmered. Slightly, like he existed a second ahead of the room. He turned to them slowly, as if waiting for them to catch up. I hear everything, he said quietly. Every second, every outcome. Then his eyes narrowed. We have company. On Elise's wrist console, a red alert blinked. Alien ships, Xyrith. 4 of them. Fast approach. They found us. Elise said. The Vanguard powered up. Lights surged across the walls. Weapons systems hummed awake. Kale raised his hand. I'll handle it. And in that moment, Elise realized the crucible was no myth. Neither was Kale. And the ship was no longer asleep. Asterisk, the lights on the Vanguard shifted from blue to deep gold, glowing brighter as the ship woke up fully. Along the walls, the strange lines pulsed faster, flowing like rivers of energy. Elise felt the air change. It was thicker now. Charged like lightning was waiting just out of reach. Kale stood still in the middle of the command chamber, breathing slowly. His eyes glowed faintly, and his face looked calmer than Elise had ever seen. He wasn't shaking or nervous. He was focused, completely alert, like he could see time unfolding around him. I can feel them, Kale said. For Xyrith ships, they're not just coming, they're tracking our energy signature. They followed us here. How long until they arrive? Elise asked, moving toward the tactical screen. They're minutes away, Kale replied. But it doesn't matter. I already saw how this starts. Just need to make sure it ends the way we want. Vora tapped on the interface, pulling up external scans. The enemy ships were closing in fast, sleek, sharp, and glowing with green light. The Xyrith ships were nothing like human designs. They didn't send warnings. They didn't hesitate. The first ship opened fire as soon as it entered the rift. A beam of energy shot through the space toward the Vanguard. Elise braced, but the beam didn't hit. Kale moved before it fired. The Vanguard twisted, its engines coming to life with a deep roar. The entire ship shifted sideways, like it had jumped across space without a drive charge. That wasn't a normal dodge, Vora said, watching the data stream. We didn't. Just move. We moved before they fired. Kale turned his head. That's the crucible. I see the moment just before the trigger is pulled. I make the call. The ship listens. The Vanguard returned fire. Its weapons didn't glow with heat. They shimmered, then cracked the air like thunder.
Oh.
Blue-white beams curved through space, changing direction mid-flight. One struck the Xyrith ship on its right side. Another followed a strange path and hit it from underneath. The enemy ship exploded in silence. Elise stared at the display. That shouldn't be possible. You just hit it from 2 angles at once, Kale said. I picked the futures where those paths existed. It worked. Vora looked uneasy. And how many futures did it take to find those shots? Kale didn't answer. Outside, the other 3 enemy ships split up, circling. They fired together this time, beams crossing space toward the Vanguard from 3 directions. Elise shouted, "Shields up!" Kale was already moving again. The ship rolled, bent, shimmered in, vanished. For 2 full seconds, the Vanguard disappeared from every sensor. Then it reappeared behind one of the ships. A blast of energy ripped through its engines. The Xyrith vessel spun out of control, crashing into the second enemy ship. Both were gone in a burst of flame. The last ship turned sharply and ran, its engines glowing bright as it tried to escape the rift. Elise breathed heavily, gripping the rail beside her. That's 3 down, 1 left. Low. Kale narrowed his eyes. No, they're not retreating. They're sending a signal. Vora looked at the comms panel. It's a burst transmission, encrypted. They're alerting the fleet. Kale moved toward the console. We can't let them finish it. But it was too late. The message was already sent. The final Xyrith ship warped out of the rift and vanished into deep space. For a moment, the command center was silent again. Then Argus, the ship's AI, spoke in its calm, echoing voice. The enemy now knows you've awakened me. They will return in force. Elise looked at Kale. How much time do we have? He closed his eyes, searching the moments ahead. Maybe 2 days, maybe less. Vora turned to the Crucible. We need to understand everything this ship can do. We can't rely on Kale alone. He's changing. Kale looked down at his hands. They shimmered, like his body was always a second ahead of itself. It's hard to stay in one moment, he admitted. My mind wants to jump ahead even when I try to stop it. The Crucible is burning you out, Elise said, stepping close. We'll find a way to help you. But first, we prepare. Argus responded, there are still functions locked. Systems that require human guidance, not just reaction. This ship was never meant for one pilot. It was meant for a crew. Elise placed her hand on the command console. Then let's do what Earth never got the chance to do. Let's learn what this ship can really do. Argus pulsed with light. Very well. But understand, what you unlock may change everything you know about war, time, and yourselves. Elise stared at the stars outside, thinking of the fleet. Heading toward Earth. This wasn't just a ship. It was a second chance for humanity, and now it was awake. The halls of the Vanguard lit up brighter as Elise and Vora loaded the glowing patterns down into the lower decks. Argus guided them. Speaking softly through the walls, every step felt heavier. Every door opened like it had been waiting. Elise's heart beat fast, not from fear, but from knowing they were walking deeper into something ancient, something powerful. Kale remained on the command bridge, now fully linked to the Crucible. He didn't need controls. The ship moved with his thoughts. His eyes flickered with light, and his voice sounded distant when he spoke, like part of him was already somewhere else. Vora led the way to the systems chamber. Inside, holographic displays floated in the air-rotating diagrams, data streams, and energy flows. At the center was a sphere of light, connected to 6 glowing conduits. These are locked systems, Argus explained. The Crucible allows limited prediction and response, but full power requires input human understanding. Elise stepped closer. Show us what they are. The first system lit up. A hologram appeared, showing a small human ship under attack. Then a glowing field wrapped around it. Time slowed outside the field, while inside it stayed normal. This is a temporal shield, Vora said, eyes wide. It protects ships by slowing time around them, makes them untouchable for a while. Second system activated. It showed ships flying into an invisible trap. Space twisted, then snapped tight, pulling them apart. A gravity snare, Argus said, used to stop or crush fast-moving targets. Elise watched in silence. One by one, the systems were revealed. A warp launcher that could teleport the Vanguard. A short distance in space, perfect for surprise strikes. A distortion wave that could make enemy ships age rapidly, rusting and breaking before they could fire. And finally, the 6th system, an interface called the Echo Grid, a network that could allow multiple human minds to link briefly with the Crucible, giving it more strength. Vora frowned. But that would need more people trained like Kale. No, Argus said. Not trained. Willing. The Crucible accepts only those who choose. Those who understand the risk. Elise knew what that meant. They needed more crew, more minds. But Earth didn't have time to send anyone. She looked up at the glowing systems. How do we activate them? Each one requires something different, Argus replied. A choice, a test, a risk. Elise turned to Vora. We don't have time to hesitate. If we don't use these systems, Earth falls. Vora nodded. Start with the Echo Grid. Argus dimmed the lights. A quiet hum filled the room. The central sphere opened, revealing a panel with hand slots. Vora stepped forward, her hands steady. She placed them on the panel. A sharp breath left her lips as energy pulsed through her. Her mind filled with noise futures, sounds, feelings. For a moment, she felt the crucible searching her thoughts. Then the hum stopped. The sphere glowed green. Echo grid, online, Vora. Stepped back, breathing hard. It's like the ship touched my soul. Will you be okay? Elise asked. I think so. But we'll need more like me. They activated the other systems one by one, taking risks, solving puzzles, facing visions of fear and failure. Elise passed the test of the distortion wave by walking through a field of memory illusions. She saw her past mistakes, people she had failed, things she had run from, but she kept going. One by one, the systems came online. Back on the bridge, Kale was watching distant space. He could feel the Xyrith fleet approaching. Hundreds of ships. Fast, angry. They're close, he whispered. Argus confirmed 36 hours. Less if they jump early. Kale stood, hands behind his back. He was no longer just a pilot. He was something more, part human, part echo. The crucible changed. Him. He saw time as a puzzle pieces moving, shifting, waiting to be placed. Elise and Vora returned to the bridge. We've unlocked everything we can, Elise said. Now we prepare. Kale nodded. We won't win in a straight fight. Too many. Too strong. Then we don't fight straight, Vora said. We fight smart. We use every tool the ship has. Protect the colonies, we trap the fleet, and we hit them where they least expect it. Argus pulsed with light. A plan is forming. But it will not work unless each part is perfectly timed. We have Kale for that, Elise said. Kale looked at her, eyes glowing brighter now. We have one shot, one future where we win. He pointed at the stars ahead, and I've already seen it. The stars outside looked calm, but Kale knew better. The Xyrith fleet was coming faster than anyone expected. Hundreds of ships, all armed with weapons Earth had never faced before. They weren't coming to fight, they were coming to end everything. Inside the Vanguard, the lights had turned a sharp blue, ready for battle. Elise stood at the center of the command bridge, her face calm but focused. Vora checked the systems one last time, fingers flying across the glowing panels. Kale didn't need to check anything. He already saw the first minute of the fight, and the next, and the one after that. We have 12 hours, he said, turning slowly. Maybe less if they push hard. We have all systems online, Elise replied. Temporal shields are ready to protect the colonies. Gravity snares in place. Warp launchers set. The crucible is stable. Kale nodded. Then we begin. Elise gave the order. The Vanguard moved. It didn't fly like any normal ship. It glided, bending space around it, sliding through invisible currents no one else could see. It reached the first colony Valkar station, hovering quietly in orbit above a small forest-covered world. With a single pulse, the Vanguard created a dome of frozen time around the colony. Outside the dome, minutes would pass. Inside, only seconds. The station would be untouched, no matter what happened outside. Elise watched the shield flicker into. Place first safe zone locked. Let's move. They jumped again. And again. One by one, the outer colonies were wrapped in temporal shields. 5 in total. Each one would survive, as long as the crucible kept working. But every jump took energy. Kale's hands trembled slightly. The time shifts were beginning to take their toll. How many jumps can you handle? Elise asked. Kale gave a faint smile. We'll find out. Argus spoke from the console. Enemy fleet entering sensor range. On the screen, hundreds of red dots appeared, growing larger every second. The Xyrith ships were fast, spread wide, scanning for targets. They don't see us yet, Vora said. But they will. I'll see what I want them to see, Kale replied. Closed his eyes, breathing deeply. The crucible pulsed. The Vanguard shimmered and split 5 copies of the ship appeared. Across the star map, each one in a slightly different place. They'll try to chase all of us, Kale said, and waste time doing it. Elise stared. Those aren't real ships? They're real in time, Cale said. For a few seconds each, enough to confuse them. The Xyrath fleet noticed. Their ships changed course, splitting into groups to chase the ghosts. Cale guided the real vanguard between them, unseen. He moved ahead of their scans, ahead of their weapons. He was already living the next minute, making the perfect decision again and again. Then, a Xyrath cruiser moved too close. Cale struck. A distortion wave hit the cruiser time, aged its hull in seconds. Metal turned to rust, engines froze, and the ship cracked open like an old shell. They'll know now, Elise said. They'll realize we're not myths. I want them to, Cale said. Fear will slow them down. More Xyrath ships closed in. One launched a spread of missiles. The Vanguard bent space and jumped just in time, reappeared behind the attacker and fired a focus beam through its engines. The enemy ship exploded. But Cale staggered slightly. Vora moved to help. You're burning too fast. I'm fine, Cale whispered. I just need to finish. The fleet regrouped. Their commanders had realized where the real Vanguard was. Dozens of ships turned toward them. They're coming, Elise said. Let them, Cale replied. He activated the gravity snares. All around them, small traps opened pockets of space that bent like whirlpools. The first wave of Xyrath ships flew straight into them, their hulls stretched and torn apart. 2 more were trapped, spinning helplessly. But more kept coming. Elise watched the battle screen. There's too many. Cale took a deep breath. Time to use the warp launcher. He locked onto the lead Xyrath command ship. Vanguard vanished, and then reappeared inside the enemy formation. Before they could react, Cale fired the distortion beam and a second gravity snare. The command ship shattered, sending waves of shock through the enemy ranks. Ships broke formation. Some fled. Others kept charging. Then something changed. Vora gasped. New signal. One of the ships is broadcasting. Elise turned sharply. What? It's using our time signature. The crucibles. It's mimicking Cale. Cale's eyes widened. That's impossible. But on the screen, one Xyrath ship split showing fake copies, just like the Vanguard. They've learned from us, Vora whispered. Cale stepped forward, breathing heavily. No, they're not just copying. They're trying to reach the crucible. Elise stared at the screen. They get it, they'll destroy time itself. Cale looked at her, his voice low and steady. Then I have to stop them. The Xyrath had awakened something they didn't understand. Now the Vanguard would show them why it was hidden in the first place. Cale stood in the center of the bridge, hands clenched at his sides. His breathing was slow, controlled, but Elise could tell something was wrong. His glow was dimmer now. The shimmer around him, once smooth and steady, now flickered like a weak flame. They're copying the crucible, he said quietly. They shouldn't be able to. It was never meant to be duplicated. Vora stared at the data on her screen. They've created something similar, but it's unstable. Their version is rough, incomplete. It's tearing small holes in time. If they keep using it, they'll damage the entire sector. Elise turned to Cale. What happens if they reach the crucible on this ship? Cale didn't answer right away, and softly he said they'll try to take control. And if they do, they won't just win the war, they'll rewrite it. Elise's stomach dropped. This wasn't about one battle anymore. It was about all. Of history, Argus spoke from the bridge wall. The Xyrath prototype ship is moving fast. Strive is using fractured echoes of the crucible. It is bending time poorly. If it reaches us, it may tear a hole that cannot be sealed. Cale looked at the map. We stop them now, before they get close. The enemy ship was already halfway across the void, flickering as it moved. Not like the Vanguard, graceful and quiet, but jagged, broken, like something forcing itself through cracks in time. Elise gave the order. Lock weapons. Prepare the distortion wave. Vora worked quickly, targeting systems confused. The Xyrath ship is existing in multiple unstable timelines. Can't find the real one. Cale closed his eyes. Then I'll find it. Into the crucible chamber again. The lights surged around him. His body shimmered brighter. He was pushing harder than before, reaching deeper. searching not just seconds ahead but across fractured branches of time. "I see it," he whispered. "One version of that ship is real. The rest are noise. If I lock onto the right one," his voice trembled, "I only get one shot." Back on the bridge, Elise watched the display. The enemy ship split into 5 versions of itself, each one firing strange, warped beams into the darkness. Time rippled around them. A nearby asteroid aged 1,000 years in seconds and crumbled to dust. "They're already breaking things," Vora said. "I can feel the distortion spreading." Cale gritted his teeth. "I've marked the real one." Fire. Elise didn't hesitate. "Do it." The Vanguard's main weapon charged a long, bright beam of folding energy. It pulsed, curved, then shot across space, aimed at the one version Cale had chosen. For 1 second, nothing happened. Then the enemy ship blinked in, cracked. The glow around it flickered, then exploded. The other versions vanished, like broken glass swept away by wind. The real Zereth ship spun out of control, sparks bursting across its hull. It tried to escape, but the Crucible's signature had already unraveled it. Cale collapsed to one knee. Vora rushed to him. "Cale." "I'm fine," he said weakly. "Just saw too many timelines at once. I won't be able to do that again." Elise helped him up. "You don't have to. You did it." He looked at her with tired eyes. "Oh, that was just one. The rest of the fleet is still coming." The sensors blinked red. The Zereth main force had changed direction. The destruction of their lead prototype had enraged them. Now they weren't scanning or spreading out. They were charging. "All of them," Vora said. "Heading straight for us," Kata confirmed. 480 ships. Arrival in less than 6 hours. Elise took a breath. "Then we use everything we've unlocked. Every system. Every trap. And we protect the Crucible with our lives." Vora nodded. "I'll reinforce the echo grid. We can spread control to auxiliary systems. Even link a few command drones to slow them down." "I'll keep guiding," Cale said, standing slowly. "I might not have many more pushes left, but I'll use what I have." Argus pulsed. All power focused. Probability engine cycling. "The Vanguard is ready." Elise turned toward the forward display where the stars glowed quietly, unaware of the storm coming their way. "We may be one ship," she said, "but we carry the weight of every future they're trying to steal." She stepped closer to the console. "Let's show them that humanity doesn't break." Behind her, Cale closed his eyes again and whispered, "They're almost here." The stars outside were no longer calm. They twisted and shimmered with the weight of what was coming. The Zereth fleet was almost there. Hundreds of enemy ships moved through space like a tide of steel and fire. Each one was armed, each one ready to destroy everything in its path. Elise stood at the front of the bridge, watching the long wall of red lights on the display. She didn't blink, didn't flinch. Behind her, Vora checked the systems. The Crucible pulsed softly in the heart of the ship. Cale sat nearby, his hands trembling, his face pale. "I can't guide us through every move now," Cale said, voice weak. "I've burned through too many timelines." "You've done enough," Elise replied, steady and calm. "Now we use what you gave us." Argus, the ship's AI, spoke again. "All systems are prepared. Probability defenses at maximum. Gravity snares set. Temporal shields holding. Ship is yours." Vora glanced at Cale. "His readings are unstable. He needs rest, but the Crucible won't let him go." "I can hold on a little longer," Cale said with a small smile. "Just don't waste it." The enemy fleet entered range. The first line of ships fired. Green energy beams cut across space like knives, but the Vanguard was ready. Shields bent time around the hull, and the beams passed through like they were hitting smoke. Elise gave the first command. "Deploy temporal shields to the colonies." One by one, the domes around the distant human outposts shimmered brighter. Enemy fire couldn't touch them. Inside, families and children remained frozen in safety while the Vanguard took the fight for them. The Zereth fleet pushed harder. Dozens of ships closed in on the Vanguard, surrounding it. Vora launched the gravity snares. Space twisted. 5 enemy ships were pulled into invisible traps, crushed slowly, their hulls folding in like paper. Elise ordered the distortion wave. A pulse of energy spread from the Vanguard, hitting a group of cruisers. Their hulls aged hundreds of years in seconds. They cracked, split, and drifted apart, silent and defeated. But more came. Too many, Vora whispered. Even with every system. Just keep coming. Kale stood. His body flickered. There's one thing left. No, Elise said. You're not using the crucible again. It'll destroy you. Kale looked at her, eyes glowing faintly. It's already destroying me. But if I link deeper, just once I can lock the fleet in a time loop. Hold them there. Even stop them from remembering what happened. You'll vanish, Vora said. Not just die, you'll be erased. Kale nodded. But the rest of you won't. Elise stepped forward. You don't have to do this. I already did, Kale said gently. In one timeline, I didn't hand Earthburned. In this one, it won't. He turned, walked toward the crucible, and placed both hands on its glowing surface. It responded. A surge of light filled the chamber. Energy flowed into Kale, surrounding him completely. His body faded, becoming part of the ship, part of the light, part of time itself. Outside, the Vanguard shone like a star. Then space around the Zereth fleet rippled. The enemy ships slowed. Their weapons paused mid-fire. Their engines froze. 1 second repeated over and over. They were caught in a loop. Not destroyed, but trapped. Their minds confused. Their memories locked. The entire fleet frozen in a fragment of time that would never move forward. Elise stared at the display. He did it. Vora stood silent, eyes on the crucible. The glow was dimmer now. Kale was gone. Nothing left but the faint echo of his voice, soft in the ship's systems. It's over, Argus spoke. The crucible has stabilized. The enemy is contained. Time is safe. Earth will survive. Elise sat in the command chair, shoulders heavy with both loss and relief. Then let's go home. The Vanguard turned slowly and moved away from the battlefield. Behind them, the Zereth fleet remained locked in the loop, frozen in their final second of attack. Earth was safe. As the ship drifted through the stars, Vora placed a hand on the wall. He's not really gone, she whispered. Part of him lives in here now, Elise nodded. He became the only thing powerful enough to stop them. Part of the crucible, a part of time. The stars glowed gently ahead, and in the silence of the bridge, a soft shimmer flickered in the center of the console. A small echo. A sign. Kale was still watching, still guarding. The myth was real. The Vanguard was no longer just a weapon. It was a promise. No enemy would ever break it again.